One of the common struggles of somebody who's just starting with watercolor is they don't know where to begin. They have a bunch of supplies laid out in front of them, but they just don't get it. I'm here to help you. Hey guys, my name is Jaya, and today I'm going to be giving you 2 easy watercolor beginner ideas that you can try without knowing anything about watercolor. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so let's talk about the supplies. I'm using Legion Stonehenge Aqua Cold Pressed watercolor paper, and I've taped the borders and around the middle, so we have 2 watercolor sheets. I'm using 5 colors: lemon yellow, crimson red, viridian green, phthalo blue, and Payne's gray. The watercolor brushes I'm using today are the artist brushes off of Amazon, and I have a round 12, that's the one that we're going to be using for pretty much the whole painting, and then I have a round 2, which we'll be using for small details. Of course, I have a wash brush because we're going to be working with the wet on wet technique, and I'll talk more about that later. You really just need a big brush that can hold a lot of water. Of course, I have a paper towel because we'll be needing to soak up some of our pigments. Then I have 2 water jars, a clean and a dirty. Now let's get started by grabbing our big brush, and we're going to really soak it up with water. We're going to start by making a galaxy painting, so you really want to take this wet on wet technique to your advantage. Make sure you have an even distribution of the water, and it really helps if you have a bigger brush for this because your brush can hold a lot of water, and once it does, it's easier to evenly distribute the water throughout the whole page. Now you can see me going in back and forth, horizontal strokes. You really want the page to be soaked up so that it's easier for you later, so you don't have as much trouble while painting this galaxy, because galaxies are all about being loose and fun, and it's really easy to have a wet paper, and it makes it just more enjoyable to paint the galaxy. You get the most out of your galaxy painting. Now go ahead and grab your round 12, and I'm starting with some blue, and I'm making these random lines going to the middle at one singular point. I'm just grabbing the phthalo blue, and I'm just adding it on. I just keep going, and don't worry too much about it because all you really want are some nice even just distributed lines, and they can be as light or dark as you want them. This is just a beginning. We're literally going to be washing it all out. Here I'm going in and grabbing some of that crimson, and I'm just like distributing it towards the middle, getting these nice and fun lines. And I'm really trying to get the most pigment out of these watercolor pans that I made on my own. And I'm trying to get the most pigment out of it because watercolor dries lighter. So you really want to activate your pigment as fast as you can. Now here I'm grabbing some lemon yellow, and I'm just going to apply it all over. Now it's a little too dark for me, so I dabbed it off. Now look up a color wheel online, guys. And I will tell you, those really help with knowing what colors to add in, which ones are complementary, and which ones will get you yucky, disgusting colors. Now here, when I added yellow to the purple, it got me almost like a brown. So I started getting really frustrated, but realized, this is watercolor. Just go easy with it, and you'll be able to get a nice result at the end. So here you can see I got the muddy color, so I just went in with lemon yellow all over the bottom and distributed it all the way down. Grabbed some more and just used all of that pigment to its fullest, dabbed off my brush, grabbed some water, and completely mixed it with the blues and the pinks and the purples and all of that. And now I'm just really taking my brush and evenly distributing it. So we have a nice background color for our galaxy. Just in case we miss a few spots, it's easier to get this nice and even distribution of a color. Now you don't have to do exactly what I did. I didn't even know what I was doing at one point. So really just grab any color and mix them together in your palette or whatever you have, and evenly distribute it all over, starting from top to bottom. Now here's where we start to get that galaxy feel. I just dabbed in some phthalo blue to its very darkest color, and then I grabbed some yellow. Now lemon yellow is a very strong color in all of the watercolors I've used so far. These watercolors are the Artist Loft watercolor paints, and I've used them for a while now. I have used Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolors in their little tiny pocket set of 12. Those are great, but I love Artist Loft, and I cut up some cardboard and formed it into a box, and that's how I made these these little pans, and I squirted all the paint from the tube into it, so I don't waste as much while painting. Now here I dabbed in some crimson, and then I went in with some Viridian. You know, I just went all in with the colors that I'm doing. I didn't have any type of reference image for any of these paintings today. I really just used my imagination and some of the stuff I've seen, maybe even in real life when I've been walking around. Who knows where? I might have seen a sunset. I might have seen palm trees at a beach, you know, or I have been online before seeing some nice and easy galaxy paintings, and I've always gotten inspired by those. So that's why today I was like, you know, let's have fun. Now, the reason I'm doing these two paintings today is because galaxies are really loose and fun, and then the one that we're doing on the right is a sunset with palm trees. That's a little bit more, you know, exact with the palm trees. You need a snappier and more rough brush. So I'm really trying to let you guys feel out what you know with watercolor and what you feel like you enjoy doing, because a lot of people like to do loose backgrounds and things that you just splatter on, like this galaxy, or you like to do some more exact paintings, like you like to, you know, really shape out palm trees or draw them out and all of that. So that's why I'm trying to give you guys the most wide range of paintings that you could do, and then you'll start getting into different tutorials of other people's, or, you know, starting to do your own. Maybe this has really inspired you to start something with watercolor. Maybe this has really opened you to a whole new medium, and that's what I'm really trying to get with this video today, is really showing you what you can do with watercolor. Now here I just grabbed my brush and loaded it up with water, and I'm literally flicking it. So while flicking it, you get these nice textures, which I love. Now let's start with the second painting. Again, grab your big brush and completely wet the paper. Now this time, make sure you get a nice and wet paper, because we are going to be using a lot of blending throughout this one painting, because we're only using the blue and the pink to make a purple, and we really want a smooth transition towards those two. Here I started in the top corner with phthalo blue, and I'm just really getting the most pigment, because again, watercolor dries lighter, so you don't want a dull and light painting. You want a more vibrant and eye-catching painting. Here I just went in right away with crimson red, and I'm just adding it all the way. You know, it was a lot of pigment from when I dropped it in, so I just kept dabbing. That's why paper towels are so helpful. And I'm just blending. I'm trying to get the best purple that I can get. And I do want to talk a little bit about paper. Now, watercolor paper is crucial to watercolor. You know, you can get away with bad paints and all of that, but, you know, you really need watercolor paper. Now, again, I'm starting by at the bottom right and doing the same thing that I did, kind of mirroring it, that I did on the top. Now, a lot of people think when they're starting with watercolor, they can get away with choosing bad paper, and they really need good paints, and that's what they think. But no, it's not true at all. And, you know, you really need good paper. I'm using 100% cotton, which is what you get on your clothes, right? It's really good clothing if you have 100% cotton. But, you know, 100% watercolor paper is really great, because it lets you, you know, do all your work, but you get a good result at the end, and it's just easier. Now here I'm mixing some pink and yellow together in the middle, and just, you know, having some fun getting this nice sunset blend, because I wasn't really going for much in this specific time. I was really just trying to have fun and enjoy. And then I took a blow dryer and dried my painting. Now the galaxy is done. I love the way it looks, and we're just gonna grab our round 2 now and use Payne's Gray. Now Payne's Gray is a bluish black. If you only have a black, that's okay. Don't worry too much about that. Black is a great color still. I just want a little bit of a bluish undertone to it. And if you just have black, then don't worry, you can mix some blue into it. Now the way I paint palm trees are I draw a straight line for the stem first. So here I am just using the tip of my brush with a slanted hold, and I'm trying to get the most pigment out of Payne's Gray, because it can end up looking too blue and blending in with all of the painting. Then when you're painting the parts of the palm tree, you want to grab your brush and use the tip of it still, and you're going to be trying to get the most pigment, right? Again, most pigment. I was really trying to wet up my Payne's Gray, so I went with the round 12 and just really wet it up so I got a good amount of pigment in it, because it's hard to activate your pans when they're not the highest quality paints. Then I just grab my round 2, and I'm doing a couple different strokes, okay? So I'm doing one downwards that's more really like slanted, and then I'm doing the same thing on the other side. Then I'm doing it again, but under that. Then I'm doing it outwards, the same stroke, and one above. Now that's the common stroke for a palm tree, and if you want to practice it, or if you feel like you need to practice it a little bit more on another sheet of paper, go for it. Here I'm making a tinier one. The ones that are closer to you will appear bigger. The ones I want some further away. So I did some tiny little palm trees. Now, for the one that's big, I felt like it was too plain. So I went in and added some textures. I took the very tip of my brush and literally just painted lines. And it added a whole new dimension towards our palm tree. And this is what watercolor is all about, is getting creative with these little tiny strokes that can make a whole difference towards your watercolor paintings. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy with watercolor, all the techniques, and you'll learn more once you start really, experimenting with watercolor. It's really enjoyable and really fun and aesthetic, and it's just one of the best mediums to start with because it's very carefree and you don't have to think as much. Now here I'm painting another palm tree. Again, straight line. I really wanted it to be, as straight as possible, but I got it to be a little bit curved. Then one line to the left down, one line to the right down, one line outwards, and one up. That's the common stroke. Again, practice it on paper if you need to, but all you really will see me doing right now is painting palm trees in that one common stroke. You'll be able to paint hundreds of palm trees if you just get that one stroke down. Again, bottom, bottom, another one above, and one straight above. It's that simple and that easy. Now here I wanted to show you how to paint a textured one, which is why I zoomed in really close. I drew a line that's a little bit curved to the top, and then I drew some lines outwards, but it was too wet for me. I wanted like this dry brush technique. So I took the paint and dabbed it off completely on the paper towel, and you still have a little bit pigment left with no water on your brush, and you get this nice dry technique. This technique is great to use when you're creating mountains or even trees like this because it makes it look so realistic. It's just crazy. When I found out this technique, I was amazed with what you can do with it. Again, grab your gray and you can, again, just draw lines, straight lines. If it ends up being a little bit too wet, that's okay. You can always fix that. Mine were a little bit too liney and too straight on the right. So I just grabbed some more pigment, dabbed it off on my paper towel, and made those lines, and it worked. You got the same exact thing, but on the right this time. And I found it to be just so realistic, and it was just amazing. Now here I wanted to do a big one, so I drew a big stem, and now I'm making the, I guess you could say branches of these palm trees bigger. So here I am just doing the same strokes but in a bigger format, and I found that to look too cartoonish, so I felt like I really needed to get that dry brush part, so again I went in with the lines. Really find your way of painting palm trees. When I used to paint palm trees, I used to do only upward strokes and it did not look good, I'll tell you that. But I found a new way to paint palm trees, and I love doing beachy, sunset-y, kind of, something that brings you warmth, and that's one of my favorite things to paint. I like to make my paintings feel like you're there, even though, it might not be a real place or anything like that, but I love making paintings like this, and it just looks great. Now, the galaxy on the left was not from any type of image, though you can look up images on royalty-free images so you don't feel like you're copying anything. And that ends up being great. I love, looking for reference images because sometimes that really can help you throughout your paintings. Now, here I just painted in a couple more palm trees, and I felt like I needed one more just coming out of the top, just to add a little bit more of dimension and a little bit more fullness to our painting. So again, dry brush technique. You guys are used to it now. Just dab off your brush and move outwards. It's okay if it takes you a little longer with the dry brush technique. It's supposed to because you have no pigment on your brush and no water at all. But that's it for our palm tree painting, guys. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something about watercolor. Bye!